So, clearly, I have an affinity for stealth games. This would make sense as I grew up watching James Bond films and playing stealth games like Metal Gear Solid 3, Hitman Blood Money, Splinter Cell Blacklist, Dishonored, and Deus Ex Human Revolution. And while I admire each of these games for accomplishing different things, Deus Ex Human Revolution and Dishonored left an impression I can't forget 10 years later. I vividly remember both of these games having engrossing atmospheres with text fleshing out the world, intricate level design rewarding multiple playthroughs, and these games bolstering sandboxes with tools provided to create unique solutions for static paths. After completing these games and going through my backlog at the time, which I still haven't completed, I distinctly remember completing Bioshock, which made me question player agency in yet another engrossing atmosphere. I remember getting on a Skype call with my friends to discuss the story, gameplay, world, and the objectives allegory that Ken Levine and team had beautifully crafted. Nevertheless, a concept that was introduced during this conversation, which would eventually redefine why I loved Bioshock, Deus Ex Human Revolution, and Dishonored, would be, of course, the immersive sim. Now, what is an immersive sim? I'm glad you asked. I'm assuming if you clicked on this video, you're aware of what an immersive sim is. For those who don't know, I'll do my best to explain why this design philosophy is so engrossing. The first things to establish is that immersive sims should really be referred to as an immersive sim design. I say this because immersive sims are a game design philosophy and not a genre. While I can use nebulous phrases like immersive sims endeavor to provide player agency leveraging complex situations to create emerging gameplay, I'd rather just speak in English. In my own words, I would describe immersive sims as a modular game design. Modular is probably the best way to describe immersive sims as it captures the essence of what the design philosophy strives to be. It's my understanding that immersive sims are games taking place in a series of interconnected levels defined by their open-ended nature. These levels are designed with static paths while players are provided with tools and builds to navigate them. If we take a step back and interpret these tools and builds as systems developers provide us with, we can acknowledge the agency given to players to achieve their goals. In conjunction with these gameplay initiatives, immersive sim design extends to the overall narrative as well. Decisions players make throughout the narrative, unique builds permitting players to express themselves with, the sheer volume of choices present, and deciding characters' fates attribute to this sense of emergent gameplay. Furthermore, these narrative decisions and gameplay freedom provide seemingly infinite replay value while also achieving a ludonarrative dissonance. Ludonarrative dissonance, simply put, is when there's a disconnect between the gameplay and the overall narrative. A plethora of great examples can be found by searching Batman Doesn't Kill on YouTube, and I'll let the results speak for themselves. So I'm not taking anything away from these games. If anything, I'd probably talk about them one day. I mean, these games are awesome, but a core defining trait with Batman is that he doesn't kill people, even though you can find several examples of him doing pretty much just that. Anyways, after beating Dishonored 2 in 2017 and being engrossed with the stealth elements and immersive sim design, I became a huge fan of Arkane and eagerly awaited for their next release. And after beating Prey, I immediately knew that this game was something very special. Before talking about the game, let's quickly revisit that Prey title and why it's kind of weird. The original Prey, released in 2006, was a game developed by Arkane Studios and published by 2K Games. 2K thought the game was successful and greenlit a sequel. However, the game faced numerous production problems before the IP was sold to Bethesda. Following the success of Rafael Colantonio and Harvey Smith's Dishonored, Arkane was split to work on Dishonored 2 and Prey, which was announced during Bethesda's E3 press conference in 2016. The Prey title was leveraged by Bethesda because they wanted to do something with the IP after acquiring it. Rafael Colantonio, the Prey creative director, said it was disrespectful to use this IP's name and was rude to the original developer. I obviously don't know Rafael personally, but reading and listening to his appreciation for games as an art is admirable. Nevertheless, he didn't have any creative control over the name and was forced to use Prey. With the development history established, let's briefly cover the story. After selecting which sex you want to be, Prey opens up with Morgan Yu, the main character, waking up in their apartment to a call from Alex Yu. Alex says you're burning daylight and is sending over a helicopter to pick you up for some tests over at the lab. After putting your suit on and taking a brief helicopter ride, you meet Alex in the TranStar lobby. Alex greets you and says how happy he is you're here and tells you to answer the questions naturally. After playing with boxes, pressing buttons, and answering a series of ethical questions, a cup turns into a black creature and sucks the life out of the scientist instructing you while Morgan passes out as gas is filled into the testing room. When Morgan wakes up in their apartment, something feels off. Morgan puts on their suit, leaves out the front door, and receives a call from January telling Morgan to escape their apartment. After escaping, January congratulates you for leaving the simulation lab and implores you to keep exploring. Looking around and browsing through computers, Morgan realizes TranStar has been monitoring their actions through a simulation and collecting data. With this revelation in mind, you explore some more and eventually realize you've been aboard a spacecraft called Talos 1 the entire time.
With this basic preamble out of the way, let's discuss the first thing that would immediately stand out to players, which are the graphics and the overall presentation of this game.
Arkane's distinct aesthetic is largely attributed to Sebastian Mitten. Sebastian joined Arkane in 2004 and has left a lasting aesthetic impact since joining. His art style carries this oil painting aesthetic juxtaposed with this animated feeling that's somehow based in realism. While this sounds weird, this gives characters and environments this human-like feel while still being animated. I'm not really sure how else to convey my thoughts other than Arkane's games look incredible and are based in a beautiful art style that will stand the test of time. Another remarkable accomplishment this game achieves is with its atmosphere accompanied by some of Mick Gordon's best work. Being trapped in a desolate space station looking for resources and signs of life is always a great setting. Combine this quaint feeling with the overall mystery of what happened here in parallel with the tension of shape-shifting mimics, and players will slowly crawl through areas, piecing together what they can with Prey's robust environmental storytelling, numerous audio logs, and computers with emails further developing the cast. The stylized and mostly minimalist UI helps players get immersed in their surroundings and really sells the cyberpunk setting Arkane was going for. Another small thing I'd like to highlight is how this game allows you to turn off objective markers. Developers allowing players to hide objective markers shows their confidence in their level design and most importantly allows players to get lost. Wandering through environments without a system directing you feels more organic and more immersive as players are forced to interact with the environment and by extension become more enthralled with the atmosphere. Accompanying your traversal throughout the station is Mick Gordon's incredible score. Mick Gordon is largely known for his heavy metal and electronic sound with Doom and Doom Eternal soundtracks, but I personally prefer his work with the Prey soundtrack instead. The Prey soundtrack is the unique blend of electronic, ambient, synth, and industrial sound. This soundtrack elevates new discoveries, the tension of combat, embodies a sense of mystery, and gets players immersed in the sci-fi horror setting. Even though you rarely hear everything is going to be okay, I've had this song on repeat since 2017 and it always reminds me of exploring Talos 1. And on the topic of exploration, I think now would be a great time to jump into the level design and overall gameplay. So in my previous video essays and my original outline for this video, I usually analyze level design and gameplay separately. However, due to the nature of immersive sims and how ubiquitous gameplay is with level design, I think discussing them together will make more sense. Before diving into this section, I'd like to remind everyone that if you're enjoying this video, a subscription and a like would go a far way in helping the channel grow. Thanks for your support and back to the video. Alright. The gameplay for Prey is actually pretty straightforward. Prey is an FPS centered around player choice. You have your pistol, your shotgun, disruptor for electric-based enemies, a crossbow shooting foam bolts, a beam emitter which will vaporize anything, a few grenades, and a glue cannon. While most of these weapons sound standard, let's revisit the Huntress Boltcaster and the glue cannon. When you first see this thing, you probably laughed or used it once. I can't even remember using it or the glue cannon much during my first playthrough until the game sparked my imagination. Weapons in most games fulfill their purpose when you pull the trigger. However, some of Prey's weapons offer distinct utilities not found in other FPS games. This weapon is a toy crossbow that shoots foam bolts. As a friendly reminder, almost everything on Talos 1 is hostile and wants to kill you. These foam bolts are useless still, right? Well, no. In addition to defeating enemies, players will also have to explore their surroundings and sometimes create paths forward to progress. To help with traversal and encourage player agency, you can find or craft these neuromods allowing players to invest into certain abilities. These abilities range from additional health and hacking things to the ability to lift and repair things. As you can see, I'm only scratching the surface for what you can and can't do. But what does any of this have to do with the Huntress Boltcaster? So, imagine a locked door with a neuromod, health pack, ammo, or some commodity you probably need. You start to look for a vent or a back door and you can't find anything. There might be an object that's too heavy to lift, or a computer or a door that you can't hack into, or you just haven't invested any neuromods into these paths. Looking around, you might come across a big shiny button releasing the lock, thus allowing you to enter this room, right? Firing a bullet won't work, or it's too costly since you may not have any to spare. Well, inquisitive players will exhaust all of their options until landing on that stupid toy crossbow you've been carrying around. Players will then aim at the button, fire, and open the door, allowing access to this room. You might be thinking to yourself, oh, I can hit buttons, neat, this thing is still useless, and I'd respectfully have to disagree. The Huntress Boltcaster can be used to open doors, access computer screens, combat cryptoid nests, and probably other unique use cases I haven't thought about. While most of the weapons serve very specific purposes, sure, the Huntress Boltcaster really hones this immersive immersive sim design philosophy. In my first run of Prey, I rarely leveraged this tool because I thought it was useless. This decision caused me to waste ammo or use other valuable resources I could have used elsewhere, but at the same time, it was my decision to use the pistol or shotgun to deal with the cryptoid nests and invest in other traversal abilities to access rooms or avoid encounters. Everything I just discussed highlights the synergy between these tools and the agency that players have to engage with each hurdle the game presents. The other famous example of this is of course the glue cannon. Alright, so the glue cannon is kind of like the poster child of this game, so we're going to keep this brief. The glue cannon is introduced as a weapon that freezes enemies, leaving them vulnerable for an attack. First-time players will almost certainly use it this way until the game pitches other use cases. Suddenly, the tool you use to attack enemies with can be used to defend yourself with, explore hard-to-reach areas, and probably more that I can't think about right now. To reiterate this point, this game provides player choice of dealing with roadblocks through its synergy between the thought-provoking neuromod upgrade system, engrossing level design, and the tools developers provide players with. Speaking of engrossing level design and environmental use cases, let's discuss the overall level design and where players will be traversing. A growing trend I'm sure we've all noticed in games is that everything is open world today. Open world games can be fun at first, especially when they're well designed, but that usually isn't the case. Most of them are filled with boring side quests, awful writing, meaningless collectibles, pacing issues, and the works. Prey, released in 2017, was in the middle of this. Breath of the Wild for the Wii U, Metal Gear Solid 5, Ghost Recon Wildlands, Horizon Zero Dawn, and more games were transitioning and saturating the market with more open world titles. In spite of this growing trend, Arkane doubled down by releasing Dishonored 2 in 2016 and Prey the year after. Both of these games feature some of the best level designs in the gaming medium. Let me know if you're curious for my thoughts on the Dishonored series, but let's discuss what makes Prey's level design so special. Prey loosely resembles Metroidvania-like level design. Most of the stages are connected to the Talos 1 lobby and are densely packed with recyclables to pick up, audio logs describing crew members' lives, computers with emails, and no shortage of things to interact with. One of the first things players may realize are the incredible environments. These levels feel lived in, make logical sense, and have some incredible environmental storytelling. The environmental storytelling ranges from the crew playing with their inventions to struggling to contain mimics and the rest of the Typhons, amongst other things. Skeptical players may find audio logs detailing crew members' fates, their relationships on Talos 1, and aspirations for when they land back on Earth. However, while all of the stages develop the cast and feel like real places, the real genius is how they're designed from a gameplay perspective. Earlier when I was discussing why the Huntress Boltcaster was great, I brought up how the game rewards player exploration of tools and builds with certain paths. What I didn't tell you is that I was only scratching the surface. All of the levels throughout this game are designed with numerous paths to discover and obstacles to overcome. There may be a fire blocking your way, a crate hiding a vent, valuable resources locked behind doors, or weapons or fabrication plans that's out of reach. While most games provide binary solutions, Prey and most other immersive sims provide players with a myriad of alternatives limited by the player's imagination. Is there a heavy crate blocking your way into a room? Maybe you can find a vent into the room, invest some neuromods into leverage, create a new path with glue, lure an enemy to move it, use a Typhon ability, or just get creative. This train of thought will be present as players progress through the game. These dilemmas may encourage players to invest in a more proficient hacking skill so they can use turrets to fight for them, or access doors, allowing players to procure valuable resources. Maybe you discovered enough paths and rather invest your neuromods into better traversal options like jumping higher, drifting further while in the air, or running longer. These levels unironically get even better when you're forced to backtrack. So, when people hear the word backtracking, it usually comes with a negative connotation, right? Our minds race to studios cutting corners, being lazy, or just a byproduct of crunch. While I mostly agree with these assessments, backtracking in Prey is actually fun. Backtracking finds players revisiting previously explored stages with new abilities, weapons, and enemies. Players will come across doors locked behind Hacking 4, heavy objects locked behind Leverage 3, and other roadblocks during their first trip through a level. However, when players revisit previous levels with improved abilities, new weapons, fabrication plans, discovering quest items for quests we don't have yet, and the new enemies appearing, it really drives home Arkane's mastery of crafting these dense levels, encouraging players to revisit them, while also highlighting their intimate understanding of immersive sim design. The constant decision-making, creativity, and aha moments players will encounter throughout the game from beginning to end is sublime. Speaking of the ending, I think it's time to finally revisit the narrative and what makes it so special. Alright, if you've seen any of my previous analysis videos, you'll know that I typically spend a lot of time discussing stories and the overall themes that they have. However, I'd like to try something a little bit different and focus on a few key plot points and their relevance to the overall ending. If you still haven't played Prey and are a big fan of immersive sims, I mean, I can't imagine why you haven't played this game. I can't encourage this game enough. This was my personal game of the year for 2017, and I highly suggest playing it if you're interested in anything I've discussed up to this point. With that out of the way, let's finally get into the story. After stepping foot in your office and meeting with January, who tells you blowing up Talos 1 is the best way to prevent the Typhons from reaching Earth, you embark on an adventure to blow up Talos 1. Alex Yu, your brother, is at odds with you for most of the game as he believes the team has done great research and wants to preserve it. From here, the story mostly finds you exploring the station for survivors, potentially doing some side quests for surviving crew members, piecing together what exactly happened here, and trying to execute the self-destruct protocol while navigating around Alex. While the side quests mostly provide additional neuromods amongst other rewards, there are a few key decisions players are forced to make to progress the narrative. The first major decision players will make is whether to kill or spare Aaron Ingram in the material extraction chamber. Aaron sounds friendly when you first meet him, but his report has a list of felonies including human trafficking, kidnapping, and distribution of controlled substances, to name a few. After reading his report, he admits to doing some wrong and begs you to unlock his gate while rambling on about the good he's done. In order to progress, the player has to decide whether to let him free or extract a mimic in his cell. He will either die or provide you with resources as he escapes. The next major decision comes with Deo Igwe. As you progress through the narrative, you eventually receive a request to meet Sarah Elazar in the cargo bay. Drifting through space, headed towards the cargo bay, players will come across a shipping container with Deo Igwe in it. Inquisitive players will locate a computer allowing you to dock or open the container. Opening the container will force him to die as he drifts into space, while docking the container will reconnect him to the cargo bay, allowing him to live. Nevertheless, the situation in the cargo bay is even more dire. When the player arrives in the docking bay and dispatches a few Typhons, you're greeted with the last of the survivors. When you meet Sarah Elazar, she says she will give you the code to life support if you secure some firepower for the crew. From here, players are given the decision of whether to procure weaponry for the crew, hack the door leading to life support, or find another way. After making your decision, players will inevitably find themselves in life support. Stepping foot in life support, Sarah reaches out to a stranded crew member named Michaela, whom players may remember finding audio logs for earlier. She offers a way to bypass Alex's lockdown and is currently trapped while her body is failing. When meeting her in the power plant, she tells you that her medicine can be found in her office. Similar to the previous choice, you can find and administer Michaela's medication, let her die, or find another way. So, in the outline for this video, I plan to describe all of the decisions, but I think everyone gets the point by now. Prey endeavors to provide a sequence of moral choices through the main and side quests with the intent of making players question their morals. Decisions you make will dictate crew members' fates, access to resources, and whether you gain new quests. And while the game was already narratively engaging and a fantastic immersive sim on its own, the post-credit scene recontextualizes everything. When the credits finish rolling, you get this abrupt screen before having a helmet removed, finding yourself sitting in a chair surrounded by the operators and Alex. Alex says it's finished and asks the operators how it did. The four operators are revealed to be Deo, Sarah, Michaela, and Danielle. They proceed to do a roundtable judging every decision you made throughout the simulation you've been experiencing. And I mean every decision. Did you install any Typhon neuromods? Did you kill any humans? What choices did you make during side quests? How many Typhons did you kill? How did you handle Dahl? Did you find Danielle? And the rest of your decisions are all assessed to answer one question.
We never tried putting what we can do into you. Until now. You're the bridge between our species. I need to know if you see us. I mean, really see us.
Alright, let's dive a bit deeper into some of the broader themes and implications of this ending. Prey explores the classic sci-fi question of what it means to be human while also serving as a broader metaphor for immersive sims. Prey's interpretation of being human is someone that's empathetic, compassionate, a bit altruistic, and your belief in retribution. The game measures players across these core attributes throughout the narrative. These attributes assess players' moral and ethical standing on each decision they make before considering whether we're human. Nevertheless, who are we to deem whether our morals are truly virtuous? Mankind is morally flawed and doomed to repeat the same mistakes. Humans reviewing our moral behavior is intrinsically paradoxical to cultivating a brighter future. We are flawed and will often altruistically pursue goals while remaining optimistic about others' well-being in parallel to creating policies antithetical of these beliefs. Simply put, it's hypocritical for mankind to assess how virtuous we are when morals and ethics are usually ambiguous. Combine this with clearly biased ethics attempting to correct our behavior, and we find ourselves at the center of human engineering. This ethical discussion can be found in the game's earliest moments, January providing insights after each of our choices, and the rest of the crew making similar remarks throughout the game. And at the end of the day, all of the choices players make are an attempt of anthropomorphizing a Typhon. Anthropomorphism or anthropomorphizing God, I hate saying this word, is the unconscious association where we attribute human qualities like emotions, intentions, neurophysiology, and sometimes even anatomy to whatever foreign entity we encounter. The underlying narrative of mankind judging whether an organism is virtuous through assimilating their values through a simulation is pretty wild. Like, let's take a step back and think about this for a second. Mankind, who caused the fall of mankind, believes the best course of action to correct the sins of the past is by teaching a Typhon human-like tendencies to save the planet. Like, that's the plan, right? Hopefully everyone can hear the sarcasm in my voice. Now, I don't think I need to add anything else here, but I'd say it's a bit ambitious to think that progenitors of this problem can fix this simply by assimilating their ethical code of conduct to a Typhon. This could be a me problem though. Anyways, in light of this simulation revelation and knowing your actions are being monitored, revisiting this game presents new ethical hurdles. Whenever I revisit Prey, which should be more often, I mean, this game's goated, being monitored is constantly on my mind. Knowing that I'm expected to act human and will be judged at the end questions overall player agency and integrity. Did you let Aaron live because you believe people can change, or did you want the ending? Did you kill the chef because he stole someone's identity, or did you want an ending? Did you help the crew fight off the Typhons because you cared about the crew, or did you want an ending? These are some of the thoughts that will be racing through your mind when you revisit this game. Integrity was explained to me as a kid as doing the right thing when no one is watching. Integrity, to me at least, was all of the decisions you make during your first run. Arkane respects player agency enough to provide you with choices before judging your solutions. The game recontextualizing your decisions with the ending, and again recontextualizing decisions made with future playthroughs, is an excellent metaphor on overall player agency. Are you capable of acting like yourself despite the circumstances? These questions, the well-crafted narrative choices, and Arkane's refinement of the Immersive Sim philosophy makes this game special for fans of Immersive Sims. Nevertheless, if you know anything about Prey and Immersive Sims, you know they have a history of killing studios. The System Shock 2 and Thief 2, the Metal Age developer Looking Glass Studio, has been dissolved. Deus Ex developer Ion Storm has been dissolved. Bioshock developer Irrational Games, founded by former Looking Glass Studio employees, has been dissolved, and Dishonored series and Prey developer Arkane Studios has been mostly dissolved. I'm not sure if this is because publishers don't know how to market these games, but it's certainly an alarming trend that these games, also referred to as some of the greatest games of all time, are the cause of these studios' deaths. On a lighter note, these developers' passions shine brightly through the indie scene with the Ken Levine-led studio Ghost Story Games and the Rafael Colantonio-led studio Wolf Eye Studios. Listen, as you can probably tell, I've played a lot of games since I started in 2001. I've played indie games, AA games, AAA games, and passion projects developed by a single person. I've played classics and I've been immeasurably disappointed. I've played games I thought were masterpieces as a kid and found insufferable as an adult. I bring all of this up to say that I've played a lot of games that I probably or will have already forgotten about. Many games are lost to time or are often forgotten, and then there's Prey. Prey is one of those games that can only exist in the gaming medium. Immersive Sims and dynamic worlds embodies what makes gaming so cool, which is of course player agency. There is no other medium allowing you to interact with the world, birth solutions out of complex systems, and tell a lasting narrative that may shake you to your core. Because of these reasons and everything I discussed throughout this video, I sincerely believe that Prey is Arkane's masterpiece. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed Prey is a very special game to me just because we don't get a lot of AAA immersive sim like games. So when I played it back in 2017, it just blew my mind. And it's funny because now that I have this channel and I kind of have a platform to talk about stuff that I like, I knew that I had to make a video about like Prey, Bioshock. I'll probably talk about Bioshock at some point. And then I also recently got the System Shock remake. So maybe I'll have a video out on that eventually. But yeah, like these are some of my favorite games ever. I think they exacerbate everything that is so special about gaming as a whole. And, you know, people usually have a hard time like wrapping their minds around like, okay, like if I have to play a game, which game should I play? Or like what game like embodies everything that's special about gaming? And immersive sims almost always come to mind to me. So I'm super happy to get this video out for everybody, and hopefully, like I said earlier, you guys enjoyed. But that's enough about me. What are some of your guys' favorite immersive sims? Do you miss AAA immersive sims? Do you wish they didn't just kill off all these very talented studios that make some of the greatest games ever made and then disappear? So yeah, the other thing is my bad about the long turnaround on this video. Playing through Resident Evil is like pretty quick, right? Like, you know, 4 or 5 hours, but playing through a game like Prey took like, you know, 16 to 20 hours. And it's so funny because I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like, you know, breeze through this game, not have a hard time, try to record some footage and get it ready for this video. But then I was like, oh my God, I forgot how great the writing was and how great the world was. And I forgot how kick-ass the music was. So yeah, just, it's funny. I was caught myself enjoying myself instead of just like getting through for the footage. So yeah, that's, so yeah, this game is just so special. So yeah, hopefully the video was worth the wait. Like I always say, keep an eye out on the community tab. Follow me on Twitter for video updates. And again, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all the support. Please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, and all that YouTube stuff. And I'll catch you guys later.